Good afternoon. My name is Stella Natufe, and I work for the City of Chicago, Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. Welcome to the BACP Business Education Workshop webinar series. We have adapted our regular business education workshops at City Hall into these webinars until further notice. On behalf of our Commissioner, Rosa Escareno, I want to inform you that business licenses can be processed online by visiting chicagobusinessdirect.org. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. If you want to learn more about this program, please visit chicago.gov/business education. To help guide your business and employees during Chicago's reopening process, please visit chicago.gov/reopening. Also, BACP and the City of Chicago's Office of Emergency Management and Communications created Shy Biz Emergency Alerts. You can opt in to receive targeted emergency alerts for the business community. If you are interested, please visit chicago.gov/Shy Biz Alerts. We would like to encourage all our attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box and send your questions to all panelists. There will be a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. Today's webinar is entitled Grow Your Small Business with Grants, presented by the Department of Planning and Development. I will now turn this webinar over to Jim Harbin.
Thank you so much, Stella, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Grow Your Small Business with Grants webinar. My name is Jim Harbin, the Deputy Commissioner with the Department of Planning and Development, and today we will be highlighting two of our most dynamic grant programs, the Small Business Improvement Fund, or SBIF, and the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, or NOF for short. Joining me today is the Program Manager for the SBIF program, Nora Curry, who will be sharing some very strategic data on how to engage that wonderful program. But before that, I will share some similar information regarding the NOF program. First, a little housekeeping. Again, as Stella alluded to, we ask that all questions be held until the very end of both sessions. The similarities between both programs will become very clear by the end of our presentations, and holding off to the end will allow additional time for a more engaged round of questions. Next slide. Next slide, if you can, Nora.
You have control. You can move it.
Is it not moved?
Not yet on
I
my
just moved it.
Oh, okay.
Let me see.
Stella, should I reload it?
It's not moving on your end?
I
moved it to slide number 3. It's not moving on your end?
Yeah, I don't see it moving on this end.
Let me reload it.
No.
Try the space bar. Hold on, wait a minute. Let's try this.
I think I signal how much I love technology, Laura. There it is. Thank you. Thank you so much. As the principal planning agency for the City of Chicago, the Department of Planning and Development promotes, advocates for the comprehensive growth and sustainability of the city and its neighborhoods. The department also oversees the city's zoning and land use policies and employs a variety of resources to encourage business and real estate development, historic preservation, accessible waterfronts, walkable neighborhoods, and related community improvements. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund is a grant program that has been around since 2017. It has gone through many iterations, and today we think it is one of the most dynamic small grant programs in the country. Next slide. One thing to note before we get into the weeds is that there is an upcoming NOF application period. It's going to start August 16th. and that allows for plenty of time for individuals and businesses to get their projects together. That application period will close on September 24th, and we look forward to seeing all of you who are interested in launching or expanding your business participate within that timeline. Next slide. So what is the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund? Well, the highlight certainly is it's a grant program. And even more detailed than that, it's a grant program that will provide up to $250,000 to small businesses looking to either expand or create their small business. One of the things that gets lost, we feel, in this program is beyond the dollars. This program is also a technical assistance program, and it's designed to assist applicants. It's one thing to say that there's a grant program that provides these type of resources, and many of you know that all money comes with instructions, and part of those instructions sometimes needs assistance in terms of having individuals walk through that process. So our program not only provides that resource, but it does three other things. One, it supports the local entrepreneur and small business in terms of walking through the process. And then two, we want to incentivize that with not only the resource that is financial, but also the resource that is that support to help attract businesses to geographies, to help attract cultural amenities to neighborhoods that historically have not seen this type of investment. And then lastly, we want to be able to continue that support by having that program be consistent so that economic development will continue. Next slide. So part of the eligibility for our program and for many of the city programs, and you're also going to see that with Nora in her presentation of the Small Business Fund, Small Business Improvement Fund, is that most of the city's financial incentives are geographically based. And what I mean by that is they are targeting primarily neighborhoods and geographies that have historically not seen this type of investment. And if you look at this map, you can see where we literally are looking at primarily the west and south sides of Chicago. If you look at that legend on the upper right side of the screen, the blue represents eligible corridors, and you get points for that. The darker blue represents priority investment corridors, and you get another additional point for that. And then in the red, it represents our Invest Southwest corridors. And for those of you who don't know, Invest Southwest is a mayoral initiative that literally does what I just alluded to, which is signaling that the city is focused on making investments on the west and south sides of Chicago. And as a result, anyone landing or looking to expand or put their business on one of these particular corridors, we are going to award them with additional points. So again, the projects must be located on either one of those corridors, and the corridors provide a strategic focus from a Department of Planning lens to ensure collective impact on those commercial corridors. And if you're still unsure, even though this map is on the city's website, we do have at that website an opportunity for you to go to chicago.gov/NOF, and there is a place where if you are curious to know if a particular address is within one of these corridors, all you have to do is go to that website, type in that address, and it will tell you instantly if you are in an eligible geography. Next slide. So who else is eligible? Well, beyond being in that located qualified investment area, and you may see us use that term many times on our website, it simply refers to that geography that we just talked about. But in addition to that, we're looking for property owners. We're looking for tenants. And we're also are open to nonprofit organizations as long as they're doing something that is retail based along with their other programming. Next slide. One of the other items that allow you to be eligible for the program is that you need to be focused on a particular location, a particular asset. And in this case, you're either expanding an existing building, renovating an existing building, or you can actually be doing new construction on a vacant parcel of land. We also support startups as well as existing businesses. And one of the things that I wanted to also make sure that everyone on the call understood is that there are two components to the NOF program. We're talking about the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund small grant program today. And what that simply means is those are grants, as I alluded to, up to $250,000. There is a competitive selection process based on applications that are submitted to engage this particular grant program, and the grantees are expected to complete their projects within 2 years. On the other end of that, grants larger than $250,000 are embedded in what we call the large grant program. Those require a lot more review process, not only internally within the Department of Planning, but those projects will also need City Council approval in order to engage, and the grantees must also and will be required to have either minority business participation or women business participation as it relates to the construction requirements. Next slide. So what can the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund pay for? We do have a much larger laundry list, if you will, on our website, but to simplify it, improvements as part of a larger renovation, building acquisition, demolition, and environmental remediation are also eligible. Security measures are eligible. Roofing, facade, and mechanical work, architectural and engineering fees, and that's something I'm going to highlight before this call, how the program has really pivoted toward making sure design is an important component of any application. And then in addition to that, any HVAC work, plumbing, or electrical work is also eligible. What's not allowed? Well, you can't, and we don't necessarily approve projects that simply want to do small improvements like painting. Residential units are not eligible for the program. You can't use the program to resolve any city code violations, and operating expenses are not eligible. And then another way to look at what's usually eligible in terms of projects, if you can take a building and if you had the ability to turn the building upside down and shake it, whatever fell out of the building would be ineligible for this program. Those things that stick with that building usually are eligible for the program. Next slide. So we talked about technical support. And one of the things that we are very proud of with this program is how our staff are poised to help walk applicants and particularly finalists through the program once they are awarded. As we stated earlier in the presentation, once you are awarded and have gone through an application process and have been selected as a finalist, what you get as a result is not only access to the amount of dollars needed to do your particular project, but you also get three things that we think are critical to helping you get to the finish line. The first one is technical assistance. We have lending coaches, we have architects, and we have construction managers on board as part of the grant program to help you navigate in what sometimes can be something that you as a small business owner may not have been accustomed to in terms of getting this type of work done in an efficient way. We don't tend to assume that people do not know how to do construction projects, but we do assume that doing it efficiently, doing it cost effectively is something that all of us can use help on. And so one of the things that we are really leaning into, not only this year and with this particular round, but next year, it is going to be absolutely mandatory that every single finalist is connected to an architect in order to help them design and scope their particular projects. We also have what we call concierge support, where our staff walk finalists through processes like building permits, city inspections, and business licensing. And then one of the things that we know, and this is not something that we are assuming, we know that having an architect on board literally helps the city, the business, and the neighborhood market not only that neighborhood for doing a project like this, but also the program, and more importantly, your business. We know a great design sells your business, it sells your brand. And so when you are ready to ribbon cut on your completed project, the city wants to use that opportunity not only to celebrate your accomplishment, but also to highlight your brand and to help you do additional marketing across the city for this particular program. Next slide. So there are a lot of details that kind of go with this program, but we think today we wanted to make sure you got that high level look of what this program is. There will be a series of information sessions that we will be providing between now and August 16th. And we also have a list of community-based organizations that work as our partners to help us get the word out. And you can always reach out to us, this chicago.gov/NOF, with any question, and someone will get back to you to make sure that those questions are addressed. With that, I think it's a good segue for us to dovetail into the Small Business Improvement Fund. What you guys are going to see is very, very similar to the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, and we'll get a chance at the end of Nora's presentation to go ahead and answer any of all your questions. So with that, I want to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Nora Curry, who will talk about the Small Business Improvement Fund. Nora?
Thank you so much, Jim. And oh, I'm sorry, and I didn't forward on to your note about the application. I just want to point out that, as Jim said, the NOF application opens again August 16th and runs to September 24th. I'm just going to sit on this slide for a minute so you can catch those dates. And we'll come back to that again during our question time. So don't worry about it. We'll come back. You can ask more questions about NOF. I'm sure you have. Everybody is chomping at the bit to ask about that. But I'm going to make you listen to me for a minute because there are a lot of things that will sound familiar about the Small Business Improvement Fund with a few key differences. The Small Business Improvement Fund, or the SBIF program, is very similar to the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund with important differences. It is a non-competitive grant to small businesses and property owners to make permanent building improvements. It is funded differently than the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. It's funded by the tax increment financing revenues, or TIF revenues, in 84 different districts all over the city of Chicago. It's different from NOF in that way. So it's north, south, and west all over the city, and it's been around for over 20 years now. Though it's been around for a while, we've recently made some changes that we're really excited about. We've put in a new 3-year funding plan. City Council approved us for $60 million of new funding, the largest infusion of funding we've received over the life of the program, and 60 new SBIFs. And a lot of that is in that in the Invest Southwest initiative areas, where Mayor Lightfoot has put a great emphasis in her administration, and about a third of that is going into those communities, along with some balance that we already had in the program. We're putting $50 million in 68 SBIF districts in 2021 alone. And how that works out is that we are rolling out money, what we're calling our application periods or rollouts. We are opening up 5 to 7 SBIF areas. We call TIFs SBIFs in this program. Every month, we open up applications for 30-day periods. And so we will only accept applications in each area for 30 days. And you can apply in your area for that open application period. The changes that we made to the ordinance are things like increasing the amount that people can get for the grants, increasing the amount that we can reimburse. So for the smallest businesses, you can receive up to 90% of your project costs in reimbursement from the city. So the smallest businesses only need to produce 10% of the project costs themselves. We've also created some escrow accounts, and we're offering more technical assistance for businesses as well. So let's get to what it is that you need to do. So similar to NOF, we help commercial businesses, but we also help industrial businesses. For single tenants, you can get up to $150,000 for commercial businesses. For industrial businesses, you can receive up to $250,000 from SBIF. The grants are paid by reimbursement, or as I said, you can get an escrow account, meaning you can draw down from an account. The city puts in their money, you put in your money, and you draw down as the expenses are made. That you can only be a small business to participate. So if you are making more than $9 million, if you're a commercial business and you make more than $9 million a year, you are not eligible for the program. If you are a landowner and your net worth is more than $9 million a year, you are not eligible for the program. If you are under those limits, you are eligible for the program. And then within those, we are tiered. So again, if you below $3 million, you're eligible for more reimbursement. And then it ratchets up in terms of reimbursement. Industrial companies do not have an income limit. That's based on the number of employees you have. In that case, you can have up to 200 employees and be eligible for the program. You will be reimbursed up to 50% of project costs as an industrial company. So within those categories, we have certain kinds of businesses that are qualified to participate in SBIF. Almost every kind of business really is qualified. It's actually easier to talk about who's not eligible for SBIF than who is eligible for SBIF, but there are a few that are not eligible. The first thing that's not eligible is residential. Housing is not eligible, not a business, but still important to say. But that does include home-based businesses. You do actually have to have a business property to participate in SBIF. Chains and franchise businesses cannot participate in SBIF. Bars, nightclubs, liquor stores, also not qualified. Tobacco, hotels and motels, title stores, places of worship, and a few other ones. And then what projects are eligible? This is very similar to the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. It's facade improvements, storefront replacements, permanent interior renovations. We don't want to do things that are just basic upgrades, painting without doing, if you're replacing your wall and you have to paint because you just replaced your whole interior, we will include that. But if you're just changing the color, you don't like the mint green and you want to replace it, we're not going to cover that. But if it's part of a much bigger thing, yeah, we can work with you on that. But we can't do new construction. We can't help you replace your parking lot or repair your parking lot. We can't replace your refrigerator, but we can do things like the exhaust system in your restaurant. We can't do things, again, just like Jim said, if you can turn your restaurant over and it shakes up, it's a good way to do it. Or basically if you can walk away with it. Or if it's something that's particular to your building, like the signage, or to your business, excuse me, like the signage. We can, however, do things like the things that hold the sign to the building. We can work with you on the sign itself that says Nora's Restaurant. You got to pay for that yourself, but it evens out. That could be your share of it. And again, we can't work on, if it's a mixed use building, we can't do the residential windows or the residential door, but we can help you with the storefront portion, the business portion of the building. Okay, some of the changes we made this year include working toward more design excellence. Commercial projects are required over $25,000 to spend money on exterior improvements, and those are required to have some, to do better design. We are working with the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund to make use of their list of architects and construction managers to make that easier for our applicants to do good quality design. I know that everybody who participates wants to do that. It's hard as a business owner to make time for that. And so that expertise is really important, the program. So we have this program everywhere in the city. Everybody applies at different times. How do you keep track of it, right? Well, luckily we have a rollout calendar we have set in place because we have this 3-year fund. We have established a calendar. We have a website where you can see the calendar and you can check your address to see when when the SBIF is available in your area. So you'll go to chicago.gov/SBIF. So you see a pattern here, chicago.gov/SBIF. You can also go to chicago.gov/NOF. So we're right there next to each other. You click on our website, you go to the rollout calendar here, and you can see all of our rollouts for the rest of the year. Actually, 2022 and 2023 are in here as well. You can see where we're rolling out. You see we're going to be on the south side in July is open. You can register for our webinars and also see past webinars by clicking here. You can go to the next. You can also click our search tool, enter your address, and see if it's in a TIF, see when the SBIF is open, and even find the local, what we call our delegate agencies, but these are nonprofit organizations that have funding from the city to assist you with your applications or anything. Actually, they are paid to help businesses in your area with whatever it is they need. So they can help you with permits, they can help you with business licenses, or with your SBIF application. So the SBIF is I am the SBIF director for the Department of Planning and Development. We have other folks here at DPD, thank goodness, who are working on the SBIF program. You'll see all those contacts on the left of the screen here under DPD, along with our website. Our day-to-day work on the SBIF program is handled by Summer Court, our SBIF administrator, and actually they also handle the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. It's a different folks, but still the same. It's Summer Court, and they're on the right there. And we are always happy to help and answer any question about SBIF. But in the meantime, I'm going to move on to our page. You can see our websites here, and then Jim's going to come back on and we'll take questions from the group. And Stella, perhaps you want to, I don't know if we want to take them from the Q&A or if you take questions from.
Yeah, I believe Stella's going to help us navigate the Q&A.
Okay.
But again, I think it's pretty clear based on, the content within both programs. They are very, very similar. Although there are different applications and there's staff for both programs. So, there is a way for anyone interested in connecting with either one of these programs to reach out to either one of these websites to get all of the assistance that they need. And with that, Stella, I don't know if you want to start walking us through the Q&A.
Well, right now I'm in the chat box. You have a lot of questions in the chat box.
Good.
Are these grants for City of Chicago businesses whose addresses in Chicago only?
Yes. They have the businesses have to be located in Chicago. It does not matter where the owners of the business live, but the business address has to be in Chicago.
Yeah, and I will add to that just real quickly. Not only do the businesses have to be in Chicago, but we also award more points for individuals who happen not only to live in the city, but particularly who live in the geographies or those qualified investment areas that we talked about earlier. We actually award points for those individuals looking to tap into this grant program.
Is this webinar only for construction-related small businesses?
No, the business does not have to be related to construction. The funding is for construction. It is for rehabilitation or repair to buildings. It's for permanent work on a building as opposed to, say, operation, mortgage payment, salaries, something like that. But you don't have to be a construction company. We help, in the case of SBIF, we can help a daycare center, a cafe, a widget maker. It doesn't matter what kind of within
Yeah.
of what's within the categories of what's eligible.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, Nora, you know,
Mhm.
these grants are designed for small businesses looking to aid in improvement to their existing businesses or reactivate, you know, some of the vacant storefronts that, you know, literally pepper many of our communities. And what we want the grant program to do, as opposed to you, you know, trying to figure out how you're going to pay for it, these programs are designed to help you do just that. So you can improve an asset, create a space for your business, and not necessarily go into the debt that usually comes along with that type of activity. This is to help you build equity, period.
Can you clarify what a chain is? If I have a restaurant and want to open a second location, is that a chain?
That is not a chain. We can support that with SBIF. When we're talking about a chain, we're really thinking of a national chain or a regional chain. We leave it a little bit loose so that we can define it. But yeah, 2 locations does not a chain make. No.
Are nonprofits eligible for the SBIF?
Yes. Yes, nonprofits can apply. And I believe they can apply for NOF too, right?
Absolutely, it can. Yes.
Okay.
You know, we do ask that the nonprofits do have a component that helps that grantee be catalytic within the community. You know, one of the best examples I've heard in terms of, you know, of how that might be, you know, you look at the Girl Scouts. Girl Scouts are a nonprofit, but they sell cookies to raise funds for their organization. If there are nonprofits who have, you know, coffee shops, I think of I believe it's the Green Line Cafe over in Woodlawn. You know, they have a coffee shop that helps support their small business and their incubators. That is an eligible cost for NOF and for SBIF, I would add.
I see a question, is NOF available for religious organizations? We offer meditation, but also have a bookstore that's open to everyone. We cannot work with the area of worship. We can work with the commercial portion of a building that's owned by a religious organization. And is that true of NOF as well?
Yeah, and that's almost the same example that I gave before. You know, a commercial aspect of a nonprofit, and churches are nonprofit, obviously. Yeah, those can certainly be considered for this program.
Yep.
When will next year's dates for the SBIF be available?
They're on the website right now. I can say that what's on the website right now is for new funding. We also have rollouts for available funds. When we don't use all of the money in a SBIF, we will roll out the available funds again. We will when we work through it and we have money left over, we'll have a second rollout of that money. So if I'm sure we will have some of those next year. But they're not yet scheduled because we don't yet know, for the ones that we are working through right now, we don't yet know where we will be on that money. If you have a specific address and you don't see it in the rollouts, you can definitely contact me or Summer Core and see where you are. One of the things that you can do as well is if you don't see yourself on the list, or if we say, gee, we don't know when that's going to happen yet, you can call Summer Core or you can email them and get on what we call our interested parties list. And you will actually get an email when that SBIF opens up for applications again. So you will,
yeah, and I'm just going to put this fine bow on top of that, Nora. You know, most of our geographic eligibility areas overlap. So in many cases, if there's not an open SBIF application in a certain geography, you can certainly target one of our 2 open application periods. We usually have one at the beginning of the year and one sometime around right now. We're going to actually open the second round in August. And you can also time your business reaching out to one of these programs that way as well.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm looking to establish a security company. Could my company apply for the NOF?
Short answer is absolutely.
Yeah, there are a couple questions about startups, and I think you can certainly apply for startup companies can apply for either program. And the key for SBIF, and I think this is true of NOF too, it's really just about having a physical location. It needs to be we are working on physical projects, and so we need to work with you on real estate, on buildings, and you just need to put together what we would do in the case of what we usually do with an existing business is we're looking at past records of what is your average sales so we can see what your eligibility is for the program. In the case of a startup business, we would be looking at your business plans to make our judgment on whether you qualify or not. So you have to have your business plans together so that we can figure out where you stand in the application process. Are there tax implications to receiving either of these grants? I don't know the answer to that, Jim. Do you?
I do. No, there isn't. These are grants. They don't have to be paid back. They are not taxable. It is an opportunity to provide equity for those small businesses tapping into the program to literally bring assets that in many, many cases are laying dormant back to life.
Will either of these programs work for someone who is just starting a brand new business? We answered that. And does this business have to own the property? For SBIF, you do not have to own the property. You can be a tenant. You just have to get the written approval from your landlord. Either the landlord or the tenant can apply. We see both kinds of applications.
Yeah, and we require that commitment by that tenant be at least 3 years. One of the things we don't want to do is to have an individual business going there and, not make a commitment to being in the community, if they're going to do that renovation and, literally have that asset that we deem as part of your application catalytic for the community. We don't want to just have individuals renovate and leave. We want them to stay. So we look for at least a 3-year commitment from the tenant.
And that is absolutely true of the SBIF as well. And it leads to the next question, which is how often can we apply for these grants? Can we apply for both grants during the same calendar year? You can apply every 3 years. And for the SBIF, as long as you're going to the maximum, as if you haven't hit the maximum grant permissible, you can apply until you hit the maximum grant. But once you've hit the maximum, you cannot reapply until it's been 3 years. You can apply for both grants at the same time, but you cannot use both grants at the same time, basically. You need to, apply for both. If you're applying for NOF in August and you're in an area that opens for SBIF at the same time, apply for both by all means. Don't knock yourself out. But as one becomes clearer that you're going to use one or the other, you have to choose. So
yeah,
you make that decision.
Right. And with the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, yes, once if you're awarded a particular grant for an NOF, you're not eligible to tap into that grant program again until you finish your first project. Once your first project is complete, yes, you become eligible again for the grant program.
Let's see.
When will the grant winners be announced?
Great question. So we just made an announcement for the first round this past Monday on the 12th. We were out at the Sablo Museum. We had 24 finalists, and we have an orientation set up for those 24 this coming Wednesday, in which we're going to literally, what you got today was a very high level presentation in terms of what the program is. Well, those 24 finalists are going to go into the weeds starting on Wednesday. And for this particular program, I'm sorry, for this particular round coming up in August, the application period is going to close September 24th, and we hope to have an announcement for those set of finalists before the end of the year, sometime around Christmas.
Does the business have to be a brick and mortar to be eligible?
Yes.
Yes, this is about brick and mortar. This is about helping to, assist that small business owner, but also at the same time, simultaneously, help improve our neighborhoods.
I noticed that you mentioned additional points for different factors regarding the business, the location, and the owners. Are there any other factors that would help my application stand out?
Absolutely. What a great question. So one is, of course, being eligible in that geography. And with with the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, you instantly have an opportunity to get 50% of your cost with a ceiling of 250 for what's eligible for the program. 50% of that is eligible in terms of being part of the program. You get another 25% of your cost become eligible if you happen to live in one of those geographies that we just talked about in terms of the qualified investment area. And then for the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund program, if you hire someone who lives within those geographies, we are willing to go up to that last 25%, making it 100% of your costs could be covered. If you hire someone from the community and keep them long enough to get to that other 25%, the city will reimburse that 25% for you as part of you reaching into the community and creating, that magic word, which is jobs.
Can I use this grant to open a daycare center?
Daycare centers for us, and Nora, I'll let you talk about that. Daycare centers are one of the programming that is not eligible for our program. And it's for a variety of reasons. We tend to be more focused on retail establishments and establishments that will attract other pedestrians, if you will, and other people to the community in terms of literally getting out of their car and doing something else while they're in your particular establishment. Nothing against daycares, but daycares for the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund is something that we don't award grants to.
Does the program support internal improvements?
Yes, it does. It supports external improvements, windows, doors, facade, and internal improvements, HVAC systems, flooring, drywall, structural work. In some rare cases, like for commercial kitchens, some equipment can become eligible. Something that's going to anchor to that building and something that's going to improve that building. Yes, those things are eligible for the program.
Will either of these programs work for someone who is just starting a brand new business, and does this business have to own the property?
Nora, did you wanna take that one?
Yeah, once again, you can be starting a new business. You do not have to own the property. You do have to have a lease for 3 years, and you do need to have the sign off of the landlord to apply and to do the repairs.
Yeah, and the same goes for the NOF program as well.
Mm-hmm. And a note on the daycare, while NOF will not support daycare centers, the SBIF program will work with daycare centers. I see there are questions both in the Q&A and in the chat. Are you checking both of those, Stella?
How often can we apply for these grants? Can we apply for both grants during the same calendar year?
You want me to start on that one, Nora?
Sure.
Yeah, so yeah, as Nora alluded to earlier, yes, you can. You can apply for both simultaneously in the same year. Uh, if your project, is deemed eligible for both and is selected for both, we only are going to have you participate in one or the other. With the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund program, there have been cases where individuals have applied at the beginning of the year, and for whatever reason, their project was not selected. We strongly encourage those individuals to continue to apply. Our grant program is a competitive application program. And many times when people are not selected, the first question is, what's wrong with my application? And we are happy to announce that in many cases, there's nothing wrong with your application. We have X amount of funding per year to provide these grant programs through the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. And we try to select those that are the most catalytic, the ones that are going to have the most impact on that particular community, where it's going to either be attracting other businesses as a result of it being there, or it's going to be creating a number of jobs that is really going to have an impact on the community. That does not mean to say that project that doesn't necessarily hit, those milestones, that there's anything wrong with that particular application. And so in any given year, one project that wasn't selected for one round could easily, and I mean easily, be selected for the next. So yes, we encourage you to continue to apply, even if you're not selected for a particular round.
Are there tax implications to receiving either of these grants?
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
talked about that before. No, there isn't.
I have a martial arts foundation. Can I apply for the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund?
Well, when you say foundation, you would have to be more descriptive in terms of what your project is. So, our application process literally asks for a narrative in terms of what your project is. And, if there's some retail component to that, whether you are offering classes or trainings or, personal training, and again, I'm making all that up, that is all going to be incorporated into our decision making in terms of whether you can be selected for that. If it's a foundation that doesn't have that outward public perch, if you will, and not necessarily attracting people to your location, it may not score as high as another organization that does something similar that does that, if that makes sense.
To have purchased the desired location for your business before applying for either grant program?
That's a fantastic question. So the short answer is you don't, but the longer answer is those projects that have already buttoned up that site control are going to score higher. If you, and I don't know who asked that question, has an application that says, look, I own this, I bought it, or I've been here for years, here's my program, and here's what I'm looking to do. And a very similar business who does the exact same thing says, yep, I'm going to do the same thing she is, but I haven't bought it yet. I'm still talking to the guy. I'm still working on an application. You can just see the math and who's going to score higher. But the answer is yes, we certainly will consider both. But when it's time to score, and by the way, our scoring process literally has us having you do a pre-test, asking you questions on whether you have site control and whether you have a budget to start this work if you are selected. And through that process and you answering those questions, you will get a chance to go into the full-blown application. And once that application is submitted, it goes through a selection committee, and that's a group of individuals that we have marshaled not only from the private sector, from lending institutions, and also people from different departments on the city. And then once it goes through that process, it actually comes back to our team to help make the final selections.
On the SBIF side of things, we do not have that kind of review process, as I said, SBIF is a non-competitive grant. The ordinance has specific ways in which you qualify, and if you are eligible, you're eligible for the grant. And if you follow the requirements of the grant, then you can get it, assuming we have enough funding. You do need to show that you have site control, though, pretty early on. So you don't actually have to purchase it, but you do need to have a contract to purchase and be pretty close to purchasing it when you submit the application.
If your business has a physical location that is in Chicago, but the address is a business incubator, can I still apply?
Yeah, and that's a very tough question there. And I understand the question, given that I used to do some work similar to that in Inglewood. The short answer is, again, particularly with our program, it's very competitive, and the the objective of our program is to do two things. One, help local small businesses, literally keep money in their pockets and build equity in terms of helping them, either improve their business location as a tenant or improve their property based on the grant program being incorporated into their budget. In terms of having a space at an incubator, there's nothing we have in our language that says you couldn't, even if you're doing some type of retail. However, again, other projects that also are competing in the same round that you are and have that location, again, and I just want to make sure I'm clear, those projects are going to score higher than that type of endeavor. Now, I will say this, projects that can demonstrate that they are going to be the organization and the site to help attract local small businesses in order to get whatever capacity that they're getting is something that we do encourage, and that we do, certainly want to review those business plans. But individuals working in an incubator, their chances of going not to be as high as those businesses that actually have a physical location.
Can business owners with an identification tax number apply for the grant? These business owners do not have a valid Social Security number.
Yeah, that's a great question, and to be honest with you, I'm going to lean into Nora on that one. I've never had that question asked before. I would need to circle back. Not have a valid Social Security number, I don't think that's ever come up. But we certainly can circle back with whoever asked that question and get an answer for you.
Yeah, I think the main issue there would be in the background checks. And as long as we could do our background checks, we just have to make sure that you don't have any outstanding city debt. And we need to make sure that you don't have any outstanding child support obligations, things like that. And if we can do that with the information that you provide, then we would be okay. So that would be an issue. I feel like we may have been able to do that in the past, but yeah, if you can provide the, you can send me an email and we can look into that for you, and just do that at Nora, NORA.Curry, CURRY, at cityofchicago.org, or if it's specific to the NOF program, you can send that. Do you want them to send that to you, Jim?
Yeah, I'm going to put my email in the chat as well.
Okay.
For the large NOF, would I need to seek approval from City Council before applying, or is that a part of the application process?
Yeah, that's an easy one. It's part of the app. It's actually what it is that it is, once you are selected as a finalist, yes, you're going to have to, put together the paperwork and have our planning team who manages the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund Large Grant Program literally tee up a package. and help walk it through our legislative process, which is city council approval. So, you know, you wouldn't be asked to do anything like that unless you were literally selected as one of our finalists for the large program.
I'm currently in the process of leasing a space from an awardee of the NOF. Am I still eligible to apply for any of these grants as a separate entity?
Absolutely. Yes. And that's to me, one of the very unique nuances of the program. I, as a business owner, can literally create spaces for myself as a business owner, whether I'm doing a mixed use building and one of the spaces, I happen to have an ice cream shop as an example. And if I have another space in the same building, can another NOF applicant apply for that space? Yes, they can. Absolutely.
Your business credit a consideration in qualifying for the
That's an incredibly good question. So, and Nora's gonna probably go into the weeds a little bit more than I am, but you know, with our program, what we ask for, and I'll make the numbers very easy to kind of digest, if you will. So, a grantee looking to do $100,000 worth of work, 50% of it because they're in the right geography, another 25% of it because they live in the area, another 25% because on their application they're saying they're going to hire within the community. $100,000. Well, what we require is that for that individual to come up with 25% of that grant amount, or $25,000, and put it into an account. At the same time, the city of Chicago will put the remaining balance of $75,000 in that same account, so those dollars are ready to go for construction. Now, that means that that applicant needs to be and have access to 25%, or in this case, $25,000 to get this thing going. It used to be you would have to come up with the full amount, and then we would reimburse you as you got the work done. We subsequently have changed that, and Nora's program is even better than that, I jealously say, Nora. But we think that we literally took down an incredible barrier by allowing for applicants now to only be able to come up, or only needing to come up with 25% of that eligible cost, and the city immediately would provide for the other 75%. And Nora, do you want to talk about what the percentages are for the Small Business Improvement Fund?
Yes. For the Small Business Improvement Fund, if you are a business that has annual revenue, as I said, to qualify for the Small Business Improvement Fund, you need to be a business that is making less than $9 million a year, or a landowner whose net worth is less than $9 million with a liquidity of $500,000 or less. Now, that's most of us, right? In fact, for the SBIF program, over 90% of our businesses and landowners actually are worth less or making less than $3 million a year, or their net revenue is, their net worth is less than $3 million. Worth less, it always sounds weird, but it's not what we're worth, but you know, it is money wise. And so if your revenue or net worth is less than $3 million a year, then you qualify for 90% reimbursement. Meaning, if you are going to get a grant of, for ease of the math, of $100,000, or if you're doing a project of $100,000, the city is going to put in $90,000 of that. You, as the grantee, are going to need to put in $10,000 of that. That is your share. So if we are going to set up an escrow account for that, we put in the $90,000 up front, you put in the $10,000 up front, and as the work is going on, you can take down, I believe we're doing 2 or 3 draws from that account. We can pay the employees. I'm doing it as if you're pulling down from a clothesline. You can pull down that money and pay the the contractors as you're going. Right then, what it used to be, and what it still is for some of our users, is that you would either have to come up with that money up front, or you would have to finance that all up front, and then we would reimburse you at the end of the project. And so that escrow is gonna, both that reimbursement amount going up and the escrow account being set up are gonna be big game changers for folks who maybe don't have as much credit, don't have as much equity going in, don't have as much savings going in. So that we're hoping that we're gonna be able to impact more businesses in that
Yeah.
way.
And I just want to put a final point on that as well. That's a game-changing moment, guys. For the Small Business Improvement Fund, whatever that cost is, you just need to be thinking about and understanding how 10% can come from your camp, whether that be you going and getting a loan from an institution, or whether some of us have that underneath our mattress, I guess. I don't know. But, that's a game changer, as opposed to having all 100,000, making sure you can go and borrow money to do and engage this program. That impediment no longer exists. And for the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, it is a little bit more, but the dollars are a little bit more. But 25% is all we're requiring the individual applicant to come up with to get the project started. And the city will come back with the other 75%, and we will set up an account where your contractors now know the dollars are available to get them to the finish line. We think that is a game-changing moment for both of these programs, and why, when I suggest that these are two of the most dynamic programs in the country, I can point to this very single amenity about these two programs.
Start a trucking business.
I'm sorry?
Can the grant be used to start a trucking business?
Yeah, it's a caveat and answer. Again, our program is more designed for a retail component. Now, if you're talking about food trucks, because of the mobility of that, we normally do not target food trucks as part of our program. If you're talking about a transportation business, yeah, that's something that we don't necessarily feel will be catalytic within a community. But will I discourage you from putting in an application? No, of course I wouldn't do that. But just keep in mind what the intent of the program is. We've got buildings on our corridors that are empty, and that have sat empty for years. We've got talented, extremely talented individuals who are entrepreneurs out there who need that support in order to go ahead and start up their vision and their ideal and their passion. We want to marry those two together and have these programs impact that. If you can articulate an argument about a trucking company that is doing that in some way that I haven't thought through, we're certainly open to hearing it.
And
How can family help to qualify for the additional 25%?
Well, most entrepreneurs know this. Most families have already supported those entrepreneurs to do that. So, yes, is the short answer. We understand that. Yes, we just want to make sure that there's an opportunity for those individuals to demonstrate that, they are going to be all in with the city in terms of getting this to the finish line.
A lot of questions, guys.
yeah,
How much
Well,
of your money?
Well, let me say this. I know we're, I'm not sure how we're on time, but I'm enjoying this. I can certainly stick around a little longer. If that's the issue.
How much of your money do you have to have, or does it even matter?
Well, yes, I think it does matter. Part of the process of engaging either one of these grant programs is really doing something, really novel, which is understanding what is it going to take to, fulfill your dream, to fulfill your vision. So there should be some sense, particularly through your application process, in terms of how much is it going to cost to get this thing to a place that is actually going to help you make money. And that articulation of those numbers should assist those individuals in determining, what that 90% is and what that 75% is, and subsequently what that 10% is that is going to be required, and what that 25% that may be required for that applicant to really demonstrate a strong application.
Yeah, one thing that we really recommend for everybody, honestly, is regardless of where you are with your money, not everybody is at the same place, but that you really are well thought out in your plans, that you could never be underplanned. And there are a lot of resources for that in the city, many of them supported by the Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Department, in the form of neighborhood business development centers and regional business centers. And if you're an industrial company, the local industrial retention initiative groups, and by the state small business development centers. These are all nonprofit organizations whose jobs it is to help businesses make business plans, find programs like SBIF and NOF to assist businesses, to help you get your permits and licenses, yes, but also to make your business plans, to find the to figure out what kind of resources are out there, to find bank loans, to find community banks that will work with your kind of business, but also just to get everything straight and to help you with applications like the NOF and SBIF, because we are going to ask you for things, like making sure we have 3 years of taxes, or your profit and loss statements, or things like that. And they can make sure and have all of that. Or if you're a startup business, to get your business plans together, and they can help you pull all of that together. So, and those are not only important for our program, more importantly, they're important for you as a business person, so that you can really think through, how is this plan going to work for me now, in 3 months, in 9 months, in 2 years, so that you can be ready for the things that come down the line, and how much money you're going to need, and do you want to borrow it, or do you want to wait until you've earned it, or however you want to be, how do I want to set it up for tax reasons and things like that. It's just very smart to think that through, and there are people who specialize in that, and who are passionate about that, helping entrepreneurs get on the right road. And I have colleagues who say, small business people wear 11 hats and about 3 of them fit, right? If you're making cookies, you love making cookies, you may not love doing your accounting. Maybe you love doing your accounting too, who knows? But you may not love doing your, storefront decoration, whatever. There's always going to be some part of your business that you need some assistance with. So find those resources and build it up. It's really a great idea to do that. And then you're ready for whatever comes along. And and just really preach using those resources. They're out there, they're free, take advantage of them.
And just to feedback on what Nora's suggesting, like for instance, we have an open application period coming up August 16th. We don't encourage people to rush into that open application period, or else I'm going to miss it. No, you're not. We're going to open up the application period again in the beginning of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
You have time to get ready. Nora's programs revolve annually. What's in that particular geography at one point in time is going to roll back around. So it's more important that you have the answers, that you have some command in terms of what is it going to take at that particular location to work for your business. Those, remarkably produce pretty good applications.
My wife and I own a commercial building, and my wife's business is one of the tenants. Can we file 2 applications for each grant?
Yeah, I understand where that question is going. Um, so the short answer is you certainly can provide two applications between, the pre-questionnaire, the application, the selection committee, and then our internal committee. Yeah, we're gonna make, an executive call in terms of what makes sense for that. So can you do it? Sure you can. Will we be looking at that and seeing what makes the most sense? Why couldn't one application accomplish what you're looking to do? We're not going to combine two grants at the same necessarily storefront, if that makes sense. If there are two separate storefronts, two separate entities going after a grant program, that's something that we certainly will consider. So there's so much nuance there that I don't want to say you can't do that. We would really be looking at the details of that application, particularly when we see that when we see applications going to a particular same building. We really take a close look at that.
Yeah, I would say apply for what it is that you want to do and be straightforward about the ownership and what you're doing, and we'll try to give you as much funding as we can. You know, I don't think we're trying to. You're always better off being straightforward with us. Tell us if if you're going to be late with something, or if something. Eventually, we're going to find out about it, and we're always happier when you tell us the truth early than we find out later. So, and we always want to help the business. I think is our knee-jerk reaction is we want to help the business, and we want to help as much as we can. So, just be clear, and we'll try to give the maximum amount that we can on the SBIF side of things.
Will you qualify if you live in another state, but your business is in Chicago?
So the short answer is yes. You will be only eligible up to, for our program, 75%, 50% because of the geography of the actual property, and potentially another 25% if you hire within the community. And by the way, that hire needs to, we want them to be there long enough to at least earn what that 25% would have generated, if that makes sense. So yes is the short answer.
Does an airport concession qualify for these grants?
I don't think that business is going to be in a TIF in my case, so probably not for SBIF.
And they're not going to be in one of those geographies that we think historically have not been funded in the past. There's no airport in Chicago that I think fits that description.
Yeah.
So the answer would be no.
Talk more about the escrow account.
So I see part of the question in there in terms of where is the business going to establish the account, or does the city? The city uses a service provider called SummerCore, and SummerCore, who actually manage the financial component of the program, they set up the escrow account with Chicago Title, in which the funds for both the applicant or the grantee and the city can put the funds into.
Would you have access to the funds to pay for expenses?
Yes, and Nora, I know you got a lot more detail here, but yes, I think we do also 3 draws. So as your contractor actually starts performing the work, they would invoice you and provide that invoice to our program manager, SummerCore. Those invoices would be vetted. Once those invoices are approved, we would go ahead and pay those contractors directly based on the work that they're invoiced for.
Yes, we haven't started doing the escrow payments at this point, so I don't have specifics about how that's going to work, but yeah, we would carefully check over the payments and make sure everything is what was expected to be paid. But it would be the same as what's happening with NOF.
So a couple of quick questions, Stella, real quick. Yes, you can reach out to me directly through my email, james.harbin@cityofchicago.org. If you're concerned about any address, particularly the East Garfield area, if you go to the city site, you will be able to type in the actual address and determine if that actual address is in the eligible area. I'm not sure about the question, and can I use the SBIF with opening a food business at the French Market? Is there a place in Chicago I'm not aware of called the French Market?
It's over in the loop by the it's over near one of the train stations.
Okay, I guess I got to get out more.
I don't think that's a SBIF area.
Oh, if it's downtown, think about it. You know, you guys know, we're targeting areas, you all know, we're targeting areas that haven't gotten this. It's not downtown, it's not an airport.
That being said, there are a couple of SBIFs. You know, SBIF is the one that's around more places.
Well, I stand corrected with NOF, yes.
Yeah, so there is the closest ones to the loop. 24th in Michigan is a SBIF. On the south side, River West is a SBIF, although there's no I think that's around like Chicago and Halstead.
Okay.
But I don't think French Market is in it. What I would recommend is you go to chicago.gov/SBIF and look up the address. If it's not in there, you can do one of two things. You can email Summer Corps, SBIF@summercorps.com, and ask about the specific address, and ask to be on the interested parties list, but also say, this is my address. Do you anticipate this? First of all, is it in a TIF? And second of all, do you anticipate it being open and when? And they will respond to you, let you know. And that is true of anybody, not just that address.
How do we go about getting the project costs for the application? Do we need a number of estimates? Do we get preference if we allow minority-owned businesses to handle the project?
Well, we certainly encourage minority-owned businesses to do the work. There's no necessary points given for that per se. You're free to use who you like. In terms of getting the estimates and getting the bids, yeah, you know, and again, in some cases, and this is why site control is so important. You know, those individuals and those businesses that have site control that can get people into, like, for instance, we're signaling that we got an open application period coming up on August 16th, and it's going to be open in September 24th. Some of you on this call are going to start getting estimates today and can do that. And we'll be able to get measurements. We'll be able to get, multiple bids. So you're very clear what it's going to cost to get you to the finish line. What we're going to require, even, is in terms of the application, we would hope that you got a good sense of what that cost is. If you're selected as a finalist, we're going to be sure by having three things happen. One, you're going to have an architect on board that's going to help you clearly look at what you are suggesting in your application, help you design it, help you be able to provide it back to or initially to a group of contractors who can bid from that single document, so you can get an apple to apple understanding in terms of what it's going to cost. And then two, we're going to make sure that you submit at least two of those bids back to us, so we can see where there are similarities in terms of what that scope was for everyone, and we can see if there's any anomalies in terms of, one person is saying it's going to cost $10 and the other one is saying it's going to cost $10,000. We want to have that conversation before we land at the end of the day of saying, okay, this is the final number for your grant. Let's go. There will be a process involved to make sure everybody's on the same page when it comes to what is going to be that cost for that particular scope.
Sources that assist with startup business plans?
Say it again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Can you repeat those resources that assist with startup business plans?
Yeah, and Nora, I can jump on this too. Just knowing many of the community-based organizations and community partners that we have that help, you know, walk small businesses like yourselves through these application processes. They also have the resources to help with the development of business plans. And we've got a list. I know Nora, I believe you guys have a list. We certainly have a list of our community-based partners who can assist with that very issue.
I would also say one thing that there are a few different things you can do. One is to go to the SBIF tool. You can go to our website, chicago.gov/SBIF, and you can enter your address, search it, and if it's in a TIF and it has a SBIF coming up, an open application period, it's going to come up with what we call a local delegate agency, and an agency and a phone number will come up, and you can see that here on the website. In this case, in the Madison-Austin corridor, you've got 3 different agencies to choose from. You can call Austin African American Business and Networking Association, AAA BNA, and they would help you with that kind of service. They are great. If you look this up and for some reason, right now there's a weirdness, there's a bug in our system, so that if you don't have a SBIF coming up, it's going to look like you don't have a resource. And that's not true. There's always a resource in the city. So what you would want to do is, again, you can always contact me. You can go to the Business Affairs and Consumer Protection website and look for neighborhood business development centers. There is a list of nearly 100 organizations in the city of Chicago that offer that kind of service. There is a map of where they are located. And you can go with any of them. There are also organizations that help citywide. They are called neighborhood business development centers. You can either go to City of Chicago Business Affairs and Consumer Protection and look them up. You can Google neighborhood business development centers. You could also look under Small Business Development Center Chicago. And any of those organizations would be able to help. Stella, if you have other thoughts about that, I would definitely invite you to offer them, because at BACP you may have even more resources. But there are lots of organizations that have them, and some of them specialize in different kinds of businesses, and they may actually refer you to the one that you call. They're usually location. They're usually regional or neighborhood based, and they will refer you out to the one for your neighborhood, or if someone specializes in your sector, they all know each other. So they will help you find the right person if they don't feel that they are the right one for you.
Does the grant support a marketing website design company?
Yes, is the short answer. Absolutely. In other words, it's not an ineligible cost. If there's going to be, someone who's going to do an application and they have a storefront office and that is their business, to help support the other small businesses in that area with web presence and, an eye-popping web design. Yes, yeah, I would be very interested in seeing that application, given that, that's one thing that a lot of businesses need right now, a web presence. And, we would certainly entertain that. So yeah, there would be nothing against us looking at that application.
What benefit would these programs help an at-home business providing virtual office assistance?
We cannot offer assistance to a home-based business.
Neither can we.
Can grants be used to open a used auto dealership?
That would be a first. And again, I hate to be dismissive. I would need to see the application.
Yeah, and in our case, we could, like with everything else, if there's a building on the site, we can help with the repair and
Yeah.
rehab of a building on site. We could not help with the actual lot. We can't help with parking lot rehab.
But either program works for someone who has already recently opened and had the work done, but paid out of their savings or with loans.
If the work has been completed, we can't reimburse for that. Any work, we can only pay for work that is done after we actually approve the work.
Yeah, the same would go for the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. There has to be a clear, scope of what needs to be done for us to start entertaining an application.
Can you please define site control?
You want me to go for that first, Nora?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a great question. What we want is that, somebody has control over making decisions on what to do with that particular site. We make an exception with tenants. As a tenant, you have rights. And if you're going to do renovations within the site of someone else's building, but you are paying a lease, yeah, what we ask is that you clear that with the owner to make sure that they are in agreement with the renovations that you are going to be proposing. When there is an application, not an application, but a contract on a particular site, yeah, it demonstrates some form of potential site control. But again, I can't say this enough because we've learned through years of experience now that applicants who don't have those contracts solidified have found themselves languishing and, in this time of negotiation when they could be actually looking at a site where they actually owned it and get the work done. We really want to award those individuals who have the sites sold up, whether they own it, whether they lease it, that way we can get this money out the door and get those businesses going. Now, that's not to provide any disservice to those who are still looking for a site. We encourage you to continue to do that. But, and that's why we have subsequent rounds for this particular grant program. So you can have that component of your vision and your business tied up and buttoned up, if you will. So when you put in your application, you can demonstrate that, yep, I own it. This is what I am about to do. Help support me doing that, as opposed to those individuals who still have not necessarily come to an agreement with a particular owner.
That's left. Looks like we do not have any more questions. Any final thoughts from Jim and Nora?
Nora, you wanna go first?
Sure. I think I really appreciate all of the great questions today and all of the interest. It's always exciting to hear from business people and entrepreneurs and all the investment that's ready to happen in the city, the ideas. And I really do encourage you to continue, as you have more questions, to reach out to us, to look at our websites and see what we have to offer. And definitely feel free to reach out and talk to your local delegate agencies and talk to us with any questions you might have. And good luck with your businesses and with your projects. Thanks for investing in the city.
Yeah, and I'll just end by saying, I believe we're in an unprecedented moment where resources are aimed not only at small businesses across this country, but particularly in this city, and specifically on the west and south sides of Chicago. So those of you who have visions of expanding, growing, starting your business, you couldn't have picked a better time. And with that, take your time to make sure you think it through and get it right. The resources are here to help support you. And I want to, just encourage you not to rush into anything because the resources are here. Make sure you get it right for your business. And I say this, with glee. The more time you take to help it make it better for your business, the better your application is going to be for us. So thank you, and I want to wish everyone the best of luck for 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim and Nora, for your wonderful presentations today. I hope that all of our attendees were able to get some good information. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program and would like to receive credit for today's webinar, please send us an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. To learn more about our upcoming webinars, please visit chicago.gov/business. Today's webinar